In this video, I share with you about Tanares Adventures after playing it through a couple of times. Before we get into today's video, just want to give a quick shout out to all of my awesome Patreon supporters. You all make this channel what it is and makes it possible not only to make these videos, but also to have all of the GGGGs. Each month, Bob the Beholder picks some of my Patreon supporters to receive gratitude gifts. And for the month of April of 2023, Dennis M. received the $50 credit towards Terrainify. Sean M. and Sala Talker each received $25 credits towards LV427. Kevin O. received the Pirates of Skydock board game. And then Ger Harald H. is receiving $100 to go towards the Kingdom of Durak Deep Kickstarter. And for this month of May of 2023, we have this printed and painted tower from Tradefell, as well as 2 all-in pledges for that campaign that is happening on Kickstarter right now. We also have a $50 credit towards Terrainify. They provide STL files. They can print out the terrain for you, as well as print, paint, and flock the terrain. So go ahead and check out the video that I made for them a while ago. We have 2 $25 credits towards LV427 towards your first order, as well as this 20% off for all of my viewers. You can use that for your first order as well. They create STL files for sci-fi terrain. We also have $100 going towards a crowdfunder, which my Patreon supporters are currently voting upon. In addition to those GGGGs, we actually have 2 of the pre-painted boxes, both the Dragon box as well as this Madness box. Each one of them will be separate GGGGs, so this month they're added to the list. Use the link below to go to my Patreon page to check out what other additional things we're going to add as the month goes along. So if you haven't seen so already, check out my most recent video where I share with you a lot of the painted miniatures. Since then, I have completely painted every single miniature that comes with both Arena the Contest as well as Tanares Adventures, the all-in pledge, except for one single miniature because I happened to lose one of these, I think they're warrior miniatures. And for the life of me, I can't find it. I know it's in my basement somewhere. I think I pulled it out just to use as a reference. And for some reason, I lost it. So other than that one, I have painted every single miniature that is found, including all of the expansions. And towards the end of the video, I'll have close-ups because I know a couple of you have asked for some close-ups, especially of the heroes. So I'll go ahead and have a little bit more close-ups. The reason why I don't technically like showing super close-ups of these miniatures is because they are tabletop ready and they don't have a ton of detail, and I use basically the Zenithal with a white primer, rattle can primer, not even with an airbrush. And so they're not meant to really be seen from really up close. Remember, I got all of these miniatures painted, so my method is speed painting, get them done as quickly as possible, because a poorly painted miniature is better than a piece of gray plastic. That's basically my philosophy, and that's how I was able to finish up every single miniature that you see here on the table. Now, Dragori did send me their 2 boxes of pre-painted miniatures. So I am going to go ahead and do a comparison between their pre-painted ones versus the hand-painted ones that I have shown here, and we'll see what they look like in comparison, because the good news is that Dragori announced recently that they are going to have another Kickstarter, another reprint of all of this material. So this will help you decide whether or not you're going to buy the pre-painted miniatures or whether or not you want to try tackling in painting these yourselves. And use the timestamps below to check out all the different chapters, because this is going to be a pretty lengthy video where I not only go into comparing the pre-paints with my hand-painted ones, but also I'm going to give you a brief overview of how the gameplay works, and then I'll give my review. And hopefully that will give you some advice as to whether or not you want to jump in when this reprint happens in June. I think it's going to be June 13th, if I remember correctly, but around there, they're going to have another reprint, which I'm super happy about. So for those of you who missed it, this will be a good chance for you to be able to jump in. And then again, I will just show all of the painted miniatures towards the end up close so that you can see how I painted mine. Now there's a couple of items that I really didn't need to paint because they were specifically for Arena of the Contest, that campaign, which I don't really have intentions on diving into. Also, some of the enemies for that game, I couldn't find references in the quest book for Arena of the Contest campaign. And so I just sort of guessed or painted them the way that I wanted, but that was only for a few of them. So overall, I'm pretty happy that I am done with Arena of the Contest in terms of painting everything. And I have started playing as intended, as I mentioned last time, with my son, a couple of his friends. We've gone through a couple of scenarios right now, so I feel confident enough to be able to give you feedback on how I feel about this game. Spoiler alert, I really like it a lot. So let's go ahead and dive into this quick how to play. Obviously, it isn't the breadth of all of the rules, but hopefully it gives you just a sense of how a round goes in combat, as well as a little bit of the city phase. All right, so here's a made-up scenario that can show you a quick demo about how gameplay works. And basically, I did print out a wound track. I know that it typically goes around the perimeter, but we just found it more convenient for one person to be in charge of tracking everyone's hit points, and that's why I printed this out rather than us needing to people around the table needing to move the wound track around depending on where they're sitting. So this is much more convenient. These are the hero markers here, and then I did go ahead and paint up these flags, different colors, and in addition, and I printed out these hexagons with magnets. Everything has these little magnets in place to be able to add to it, since we do have two blue enemies, one here and one there. So you need to distinguish between the two, and that's why I did go ahead and 3D print those out so that also this fits on the bottom here as well. So that's just an easy way to keep track of everybody. So I'll go ahead and go with my tank, and it's his turn. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and attack the person right in front of me. So I'm looking at my deck here, and I have my two specials that I haven't used yet. These are super powerful, and once you use them, it's out the rest of the scenario. So these are one-time use, very powerful. And then right now I have 4 of these silver card abilities, my basic attacks, or these aren't basic attacks, but my primary attacks. And I've already spent 3 of them. Here, they're face down. So I'm going to go ahead and use my War Cry ability. And I need to be 2 squares away, and I'm adjacent, so I'm good. It targets 1 enemy. And if I succeed, I'm going to do 8 damage plus the effects. And one of the things I really like about this game is even if you miss, you're going to do some damage. And so right here, it is 5 residual damage. You're not going to do any of these other effects, but at least you're going to gain something for missing. As well, you're going to receive a mana cube to be able to use sort of your dashboard abilities on your dashboard, which I will demonstrate later. So misses actually aren't complete failures. You're able to get something out of it, which is good. So let's go ahead and roll. So everything here is 20-sided, and what I need, the enemy card here is this green sentinel. His defense is 7. He started out with 60 hit points. Defense is 7, so I need a 7 or above on the D20 in order to succeed. And I got a 16, which is a hit. 1s are always misses, and 20s are critical hits, which gives you plus 5 bonus damage when you're calculating damage. But I did succeed in hitting. So again, I'm going to do 8 points of damage. Also, I'm going to get the toughened. And then my passive power includes enemies who start their turns within 2 squares of you. So this is really good. So I'll go ahead and do 8 points of damage to this character. So this is going to reduce him down to 30. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my toughened, which is -3 damage from anyone attacking me. I'm going to, again, I magnetize. Go ahead and check out my other video where I show how I magnetized everything to keep track of all of the conditions on these characters. And then now, what is super interesting about this game, and what I love about it, is it isn't all the heroes go first and then the enemies, but as soon as you attack someone, it provokes them and they immediately go right after your turn is over. So now that my turn is over, I'm going to go ahead and turn to the Sentinel. So we're going to look up here to the top right, and this is a priority target, which is the hero with the most amount of mana cubes. And right now, that is our healer, who has 4 mana cubes right now, and here on the board this is our healer. So even though I'm right next to him, he's going to go ahead and move and attack. And so this is where the strategy part of this game really comes into play, because you want to position your heroes in a way that takes advantage of the enemies moving around on the board. Because now he's going to move 5, and as he moves there's an opportunity attack which causes reaction damage just automatically. You don't even have to roll for it. So when you look at my dashboard here, our reaction damage for the tank is actually 6. So this guy, just by moving, standing next to me, he's going to take 6 more damage to reduce him down to 24 just by moving. So you can take advantage of positioning in order for that to happen. Now, you only take reaction damage once and at the earliest time that it can. So even though he walked by my ally here, he's only going to take reaction damage from me. It doesn't double up here. So he's going to move forward, and then he's going to roll, and the healer has a defense of 7. So he needs to roll a 7 or better, and rolled a 1. So that's going to automatically be a miss. But enemies also have miss damage, so our healer is going to take 8 points of residual damage. Now the nice thing about this is that because he missed, none of these effects are going to happen. So had he been successful in hitting our healer, she would have taken 15 points of damage, plus the enemy with the highest hit points will gain an empowered 3 token. But none of that is going to happen because he missed. So our healer just goes down 8 points to go to 31. So we go ahead and stick a cube on here so that we know that this enemy has gone. Also, one of the things that I probably should have done was go ahead and tap my equipment, the longsword, which after a successful attack does 5 additional damage. So I'll just do that retroactively to do 5 more. Well, I can't remember if I moved this one or not. Now I'm getting confused. But just for demo's sake, we'll go ahead and move the green guy down 5 down to 10, and then now the hero's turn is over. So let's go ahead and look at our cards, and we notice that our cultist here already activated, so she doesn't need to go. So after all the heroes activated, if one of the enemies has been unprovoked or hasn't gone yet, they basically get the benefit of their critical. So right here it says critical or unprovoked. Again, that's rolling 20. You're going to have plus 5 to the damage after a successful attack. So we'll go ahead and look up here, and this is the only guy who hasn't gone yet. So his priority is the hero that is furthest away. She is actually the furthest away, but because he can't reach, he's going to go ahead and go after our healer. So he's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And he's going to go the shortest route and the safest distance, so he avoided getting that reaction attack. Now one thing, because he started 2 away from my hero, it triggers his condition, his passive ability, which basically says here, an enemy started its turn within 1, but remember my card made it 2 of you and declares an attack since he's attacking our healer. I can either choose to be shielded for, if not, if an ally is attacked, it is protected for. So she's going to have a plus 3 defense against this attack, and normally her defense is 7, but goes up to 10. So let's see if he succeeds. 15 does succeed in hitting, and she will go down 15 points, but plus 5 because he was unprovoked. So that's going to be 20 points of damage on our healer, which reduces her down to 11. And then the following effect, which is another hero closest and within 8, takes 7 damage, and that is going to be our tactician up there, who's going to take 8 points of damage. And then also we look at their passive ability too, and it says no other villain is within 1 of the targets, which actually is not true. There is another villain within 1, so then it doesn't trigger this, which would have healed this villain 6. Now there's a lot more other things going on the board that I didn't get to. For example, here I could have chosen to spend a mana point when that guy was attacking to taunt, which means I would have run 5 as my tank, and I become the target rather than our healer, and that would have maybe spared her that damage, because I could have run here and it would have forced him to actually attack me instead of our healer. So that's one of the abilities here on the dashboard. Once you spend all 4 and have charged all 4 of your abilities, you can uncharge all 4 of them, and that enables you to do this ability right here, which is I healed 9 hit points. So it's advantageous to always use the abilities on your dashboard as quickly as possible. The blue side are things that you can do not during your own turn, but during your ally's turn. The red side is abilities that you can use when the enemy is activating. So you're spending these mana cubes in order to do these abilities. Great thing about that is that you're always engaged in what's happening, because you can always aid and help out your allies when it's their turn, and also react to the enemies when it's their turn as well. So that's one of the features that I really like. Also, the thing that I wanted to mention was this was my last silver card. When I spent it, I actually picked them all back up again and recharge one of my equipment. So here I'm going to go ahead and recharge my longsword, and I'll have to wait until I cycle through my primary attacks again if I wanted to recharge the chainmail too. So that's again a nice way to just burn through your cards once you go through it all. Not only does it refresh in your hand and you can use it again, but also you're recharging one of your equipment that you used. So obviously there's a lot of terrain features, like if you move into this terrain, it causes 4 points of damage. That's true for lava as well. There's doors, there's features on the board, there's chests to grab. So there's a ton of other things that makes this game really tactical, which is one of the things I really like about Tanares. We have all those miniatures over there, which provides a ton of variability, but even as you can see here, within the same group of enemies, you have different AI. Again, that creates a lot of variability too, so that all of the enemies don't respond in the same way. So hopefully that's a quick, helpful recap for you to get a sense of what the gameplay is like. So this is the city phase, and basically I'll just do a quick run through so that you can get a feel of what the city phase feels like. So each of the players is shuffled and randomly draws 4 cards where they can use the resources. So obviously the heroes have the most number of resources, and there's 4 different types down here: the attack, negotiation, spycraft, and knowledge. And then you have these NPCs that are providing other resources. So Ed Hell here is providing 3 negotiation, or you can pass this on to another player during their turn, and they can have 2 of any one ability, which is a great feature. And you can purchase more of these NPCs here, whereas some of these NPCs are the beginning ones, and they're just providing a straight, you know, this guy has a 3 attack ability. And you're slowly upgrading your hand deck, so there is hand management that is happening overall with this mini game of the city phase. So you have 3 different options where you can go on expeditions to try to draw more loot cards. So I'm going to go ahead and use my hero card here, and if you see the requirement, I can pretty much do this expedition here. So I'm going to spend my 5 attack and then the 2 spycraft to go ahead and put 1 token here. And so since we have 5, we're going to be able to draw not only 5 extra loot cards, but an additional 1, because for each 3 you're going to draw another loot card. So I spent this one, so I have to set this aside. And with my remaining cards, what I'll do is, this one is, these are the resources that you need to purchase the NPC. With the 3 negotiation and then the 3 attack, I will be able to buy either this guy here, this noble, because that's his requirements, or Ranga over here is 3 and 3. So the cost is basically the same for them. So I'll go ahead and put a cube here because I'm going to purchase her. And then finally, all I have left is the 3 attack, or again, I can opt to pass this on for players behind me to be able to use, and it's at a reduced of only 2. So you have those kinds of choices because each player plays their entire hand before it goes on to the next player. So I'll go ahead and spend the 3 to add another cube right here to the weapon shop, and which already has a cube on there. So you can either use 3 knowledge or 3 attack to put a cube on there. because now we move on after everyone is gone to the spending phase. So we remove all these. We're going to get 5 or 6 cards there of extra loot, which these are the loot items. And then we'll go ahead and take these off and grab these NPCs and add them to our deck, which not only do these give advantages of resources during the city phase, but here, if you bring them along with your hero, this is the benefit that you gain when you start your next adventure phase. So in this case, I would gain a mana, or I can choose to gain 2 empowered tokens. And then finally, we're going to go ahead and just use our resources to go ahead and use each one of these buildings' abilities. And one of our favorites is to go ahead and we'll spend these 2 cubes in order to, and also a gold and a gem. So we'll remove this gem and this gold in order to draw 3 heroes and add 1 to our character deck. And all of ours we managed to upgrade to level 2. And you're able to upgrade your posts by spending a cube, and in this case with the tavern, 3 gems and 2 iron. So in essence, that is the city phase, which is a mini game in and of itself. So now I'm going to go ahead and give my review while I'm showing off the smaller miniatures and providing some close-ups for that. But before we get into that, just want to share, a couple of you did ask where I got these trays, these miniature trays. It is on Thingiverse, so I'm going to leave a link in the descriptions below if you're interested in grabbing these trays. I modified someone else's so that this is the primary way that I store my miniatures in my cases. So here on the right, I have all most of the minions, monsters that are over here. And then these top 2 trays are all of the hero figures. And then this bottom tray down here is also one of the minion trays. So I'm just going to go through. I'm not going to explain, a whole lot of any of the miniatures, just assuming that you just want to see what this looks like. Also, if you want to see a painting tutorial of the method that I used for this, go ahead and check out the video here, where it was actually the Altar Quest miniatures that I used the same technique. But I have a number of other painting tutorials on using contrast colors with different kinds of undercoating, so just browse through my channel and you can see a bunch of other tutorials. So let's go ahead and start off with the heroes first. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with the things I like and then the things I don't like. So things I like is that the tactics of sort of this tabletop miniature game is really deep, and you have a lot of different choices that you can make, not only with your cards, but also with your dashboard and the way that you can use the deck to position yourself. And positioning here in this game is really important. So there's a lot of rules surrounding that. Now, some of you might not like that, but as a tabletop miniature wargamer, I really like the depth of the rules and all of the options that you have playing on the tabletop. I was actually a 4th edition, D&D 4th edition fan. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I loved how 4th edition made the game tactical and required a map and miniatures to play. So this sort of scratches that itch of having a highly tactical tabletop experience, which you might not be interested in, but I really like a lot. And it is a puzzle in trying to figure out how do you maximize your move and your turns so that you can accomplish all of the objectives and not getting totally wrecked by the enemies by making sure that they aren't maximizing their abilities either. So the AI also of the enemies I really like a lot because there is a ton of variety. Each one of the minions, even though it's the same type, all has different AI and priorities, and I really like that a lot. Also, you have a lot of upgrading as you level up, and that is managed through the city phase as well. I haven't gone through the world phase, so I don't know what that's like, but there is a lot of options, and like any other campaign game, leveling up is one of the key features, and this game does not disappoint in that area. And as you can see here from all of these shots, there is a massive number of heroes. And I love the fact that you're not tied into just one hero, but at any time, once you unlock more characters, you're able to play them. So I see myself playing a lot of different heroes rather than just sticking to one, especially since the dashboard and the cards don't really change based off of class. Now, I know that's a complaint for some people, and I might get bored after a while, might want to change my class, but at least at this point, I really like the fact that you can swap out heroes as you unlock them, so that makes it really fun. Also, there is a ton of choice in the story, where I think there's a lot of replayability because you're really only going through about 20 scenarios to finish the campaign, and I think there's about 100, maybe I'm wrong with that, but a lot of scenarios, so you're going to be able to play through. And unlike Oathsworn, the choices that you make really closes doors, and this storyline branches quite a bit. So I think that will make this game pretty replayable, which is something I like a lot too. Now, the things that I don't like as much, and it is the number of books that you have to reference in order to play this game, and some of it really doesn't make sense. Now, I think all of my dislikes is going to be corrected, so I'm really glad that my number one dislike, which is trying to navigate all of the books that you have to go back and forth in order to accomplish the story mode as well as the quest, that's going to be consolidated, which I'm really thankful to hear. Now, one of the things that I really wish also that is going to be fixed is that there's no voiceover narration like there is with Oathsworn. Now, I did see that with the second printing, they are going to have narration, voice narration, which I think is a fantastic idea. Also, another thing that I don't like is that the increase in Kemet levels, the very first one, and this is, I agree with Alex from Board Game Co. He sort of complained about this too, is that your level 1 Kemet restricts you from using one of your gold cards, which is a huge nerf on your character. So we might be coming up with a house rule to make it so that you're not nerfed that gold card till later. But yeah, that's really hard hit to take, where I'm tempted to not take the first level Kemet. And then finally, the city and world map is just a piece of paper. I wish it was a board. And again, Dragori Games is going to be fixing that with the second printing. They are making that a fold-out board. So I'm really happy to see. And definitely check out the link below to go to their preview page for the second printing, because, and this is what I love about Dragori Games, is they pretty much listen to us as fans, and they listen to the feedback, and they really respond. And in fact, people were complaining with the very first printing of Arena the Contest about the quality of the miniatures, so they redid all of the miniatures. So Dragori is super responsive to its fan base. They're committed to this game, and I'm really happy to see that they are going to come out with a second printing, and that they are addressing all of the criticisms, which aren't that many, but they're addressing the criticisms that other people have had with this game. So I'm super happy to see that. And overall, I really like this game a lot. If you like quests or campaign games, this is a game that you're going to like. It is just the right amount of complication with rules and depth, and also a tie-in of a great storyline. So good job, Dragori Games. I think this is a fantastic quest game. All right, so let's go ahead and check out the pre-painted Madness box. And I'm going to pull these out one by one and compare it to my paint. So here's the pre-painted, and here's the version that I painted up. And I think that it actually looks pretty darn good, considering that these are mass painted. Now, of course, you can tell that there wasn't really dry brushing that was done with the purple. So the purple is just a solid color, whereas I dry brushed a little bit of a pinkish purple color on mine. And clearly, I put blood down here at the bottom of the pool versus mud. But overall, I would have to say that you are getting a pretty good paint job for this pre-paint. And even though I prefer my pink suction cups, these lighter tan colored ones look okay too. So overall, I think they did a pretty good job, at least with this model. Alright, so next up, the pre-paint actually is brighter than mine. As you can sort of overall see, it looks like they did a wash versus I did an undercoat and more of a dry brush over that. And the colors are different, slightly different. But this one, definitely the pre-paint is brighter. But again, can't complain, right? I mean, look at the detail of the goat's head. Because mine is sort of darker, has a little bit more higher contrast. But overall, I think you would be fairly happy. I mean, the snake down here is just a flat brown color, whereas I made mine green. But overall, again, I think this is actually pretty good, and I would definitely proudly display this in my display case, even though I like the overall darker colors with mine. Alright, so again, the difference that you're going to have is I just have a lot more layering and shading over here. This overall is brighter. I do like the fade of the lighter brown here, whereas I made mine a more apparent brown. Our bases are pretty close to each other. So that turned out interesting. And overall, you know, I put some silver. There's no silver up here in her armor. And actually here there is a light purple that is highlighting the back, whereas I had dry brushing the blue. But overall, again, I think this model is pretty good. Clearly, you can do a better job with layering on your own, but overall, still a good model. Alright, so this is a pretty big difference, just because the color is different. So he is flesh colored, whereas mine is this orangish red skin tone. And the reason why I painted mine this way is because that's what I saw on the internet. When I Googled it, that's what I used for reference. So apparently there's some storyline where he changes from this into this, an evil version maybe. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. But still looks pretty good. Yeah, we're consistently seeing that the pre-paints are brighter. And in general, that's because I do have a dark undercoat that I'm working with. And I did choose to paint a lot more silver up here, whereas this is some bronze color. And one of the things I wasn't happy with was the face detail, and again here it doesn't show up very well there either. But overall, I think it looks pretty good. The Death Knight, I think there was a choice of just different colors. Even the base, I think they had more skulls, I guess they painted up. And even my skulls are a darker brown. And the armor here is painted almost exclusively all silver, whereas I kept my gray with gold highlights. But again, I think this Death Knight still looks pretty cool. And in some ways, by painting him silver, it distinguishes him from his horse more than mine does. So overall, again, still pretty happy with this pre-paint. Then finally in this box set, the really small miniature. This guy, and again, a lot lighter. And I feel like I was able to get more detail. I mean, I differentiated the bandages. This is all just one light purple color. So there was I feel like more achieved with my paint. But still, I think looks fine. And of course, if you're unhappy with your pre-paint, you can add a little bit more detail on your own to it. But overall, Madness Box looks good. Alright, so now for the Dragon collection. Alright. And I do know that they have pre-paints for the green one that comes in the base box. So yeah, right off the bat we see that, again, it's lighter. There is less shading, and I think that's to be expected with pre-paints. The details on the face and down here on the nest. So overall you're just going to get just one flat color, whereas I can do more dry brushing and pull out the details a little bit more. But again, oops, where's it? Oh, the tail fell off. I'm going to have to glue that back on, but that's not a big deal. And just overall, you can see the difference here. Yeah, look how super bright this one is. They just use a lot of white, whereas I didn't use any pure white on mine. So just aesthetically, though, I like the subtleties. I wonder if they airbrush that. But it still looks pretty good. I still like mine better, just because you can do more layering and more different colors. But yeah, this is super bright. Here's the red dragon. This is a lot more red just because I painted my wings orange. And the base is more gold and bright. Oh, they dotted the pupil there on the eyeball. Yeah, mine looks more orange than this one. This is definitely red. Alright, these look pretty different from each other just because of the color. This is more of, there's a slight more yellowish, greenish tone to him. And I opted down here to make this sort of a black undercoating with a cooler color for the skeletons down here to contrast. But both of them are contrasting, so the base doesn't blend in to the dragon, which I like a lot. But this is actually the colors are pretty different from each other. But I feel like they did a pretty good job, because they did add different colors for the spines, which I think that there's a temptation to make the whole thing look the same. So overall, I think they did a good job. I made my eyes here red, and these are just black. Here's the black dragon. Pretty much I was following and mimicking the pre-paint pictures that I saw to paint up mine. And this is, again, brighter. Even the black, it's more of a dark brown, whereas I did use pure black on mine. So again, there you're going to have a little bit of a difference. I have more highlighting on the face. The base obviously is pretty different from each other. I actually added gravel down on the bottom of this base, so that's different. But these two are fairly similar to each other. And finally, this little miniature here. Oh no! The sword is broken. Oh, that's a bummer. But it looks like the skin, it looks like that's plastic. Because the color of the plastic, because that doesn't look like paint to me. And in some ways, I think I like this version a little bit better than mine, just because the skin tone is a lot clearer, whereas this blends in more with the bone around it. So, I don't know, what do you guys think? Which one do you like better? I think I sort of like the colors on this one. This is where mine is actually brighter than theirs. So I think my conclusion overall is that definitely, especially if you're not a painter, getting the pre-painted version might be worth the extra money, because it isn't just these 2 boxes. It also includes the Tanares, I think, is pre-painted, along with a golden dragon, which I didn't get pre-painted versions of that. But overall, their paints are going to be lighter and less layering than mine, or what you can achieve on your own. And I painted mine up pretty quickly. As I didn't spend a lot of detail, so obviously if you spend a lot of time and you're a painter, then I would say it's not worth it to get the pre-paints. But if you want to save a lot of time, and that's an overwhelming number of miniatures that you don't want to paint up, it probably is worth it to pay the extra amount. I don't know how much it's going to be with the second Kickstarter. I think with the first Kickstarter, if I remember correctly, I think it was $130 more to get the pre-paints, but yeah, just time-wise, that's going to be worth it, because you're going to spend hours painting up all of these. So it sort of depends how much your hourly rate is worth. But overall, I'm pretty happy because I was able to paint up these larger miniatures faster. So it is entirely up to you. But I definitely think that the pre-paints are pretty good quality. Definitely would not be ashamed to put them in my display case. And if you want to save time, you can get it pre-painted. But otherwise, thank you, Dragori Games. These are both going to be separate gratitude gifts that Bob is going to be choosing someone to receive. So there you have it. Hopefully this video helps you prepare yourself for the upcoming Kickstarter that is happening. Use the links below to sign up to be alerted for when that Kickstarter happens, again in the middle of June. And then you can decide how much you want to go in on this. Also, for those of you who don't know, there is the RPG version, the 5e version of this game that I also went all in on, and I'm waiting for those rule books to come. Hopefully they'll be coming in a couple of months or so. But in the meantime, I have plenty to play with and the campaign to go through in order to fill up my time while I'm waiting for that RPG. Again, use the link below to go to my Patreon page, where you have the opportunity of winning one of these 2 pre-painted boxes. Since I already have my own, these are going to be included in the GGGGs for this month. Otherwise, happy gaming. We'll see you next time.